Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Jock Talk. We are here to preview our favorite buys and shorts for the Sunday slate. A lot of exciting games to get into, so let's not waste your time. Let's go right into our buys. Trone, do you want to start out with your first one?
Yeah, my first buy is Tony Pollard. He's my RB1, I think, on the Sunday main slate. He's facing the Cardinals, who is certainly not a matchup downgrade. I think they're 17th in fantasy points allowed to running backs. I mean, look, we saw Saquon Barkley put up a big fantasy performance here last week against them. Pollard is getting insane usage, so I'm putting the chips in on Pollard again this week.
I love that. My first buy of the week is Josh Reynolds. We have a projected pre-rank of 84th. He gets slightly less snaps than Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he's way more effective in them that he's shown this season. He leads the team in yards percentage and touchdown percentage, clearly being the top scoring threat for Jared Goff so far this season. He's had 2 great weeks to start so far, 183% ROI in our market week 1, following that with 270% last week. And if Amon-Ra is still banged up, like we saw at the end of that Seahawks game, you could really just see Josh Reynolds being target number 1 this week for that Lions offense. So buy there.
Yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra is battling that turf toe, right? Like I think he's going to play, but yeah, I mean, Reynolds seems like a smash. I like that pick. My next one is my RB2 on the Sunday slate, which is Travis Etienne. We've got him ranked in our markets at 23rd. Look, he's facing the Texans, which is, I mean, we don't have to talk about how good the Texans have been for opposing running backs in fantasy. They're already 25th this season versus running backs, allowing over 25 points per game to the position. And then you account for Etienne getting a 76% snap share, 11% target share on the season. Majority of the short down and distance work. He's getting 75% of the long down and distance and the 2-minute off. I mean, he's got an insane usage role here. I think this could be a real big day for Etienne. I mean, he may run all over the place. So I'm definitely buying Etienne this week.
I love that. I think there's a lot of good spots for running backs this week to pop off in our markets. I'm going to stick with running backs as well. Go Breece Hall as my next buy. Projected pre-rank of 89th. And just thinking back on the Jets-Patriots games from last year, I believe this game is just going to be gross. And I believe whoever can milk the clock with their running game probably has the best chance to win. The Jets are probably going to want to keep the ball out of Zach Wilson's hands as much as they can. Breece Hall should be utilized way more than Dalvin Cook has so far. I don't understand why. He has 10% less snaps, but has doubled Cook up in terms of yards gained on those snaps. And I just think for a game where running is going to be utilized so much, a ranking of 89th is way too low. So, and I also haven't been impressed with the Patriots run defense so far after giving up over 100 yards to Raheem Mostert last week. So I think Breece Hall is a good play this week, buying him.
Yeah, I think it's a good bounce back week for Breece for sure. I mean, he's just too talented. The only thing that's going to hold him back is if his progression from his injury is worse than they're letting on. But I mean, watching him in week 1, it certainly wouldn't seem that way.
Certainly not.
Yeah. So I'll dive into my third buy here, jumping over to the wide receiver position. Mike Williams, his pre-rank is 42 in our markets. Chargers are playing the Vikings this week. The Vikings are giving up a ton of yards through the air right now. I mean, this game should be a shootout too. I mean, I think the game total is 54. I think it's a similar environment that we saw Williams rack up 13 targets last week, but his price is still suppressed because of the game that Keenan Allen had. Keenan Allen went off last week, and we've seen similar ceiling type games from Mike Williams in the past. I think this could be another one. So I am definitely buying Mike Williams this week at a pre-rank of 42.
I love that. Yeah, in all these shootout games, I think there's definitely certain big spots for receivers all over the place to go off. I'll stick with receivers too. Going to go Nico Collins as my third buy. Projected pre-rank of 63rd. And out of all the Texans receivers so far, he is far and away the most effective in his snaps. He doesn't play as many as Robert Woods, but leads in all receivers in targets, receptions, yards, and touchdowns. And these aren't just flukes. He followed up a pretty decent week 1 with a 280% ROI increase last week. And he's on one of those he's a younger player on one of those mediocre teams, which is why his value is usually so low. But I think he's become CJ Stroud's favorite target. So I just think there's way more opportunity for him to pop off in our market this week.
And they're letting CJ Stroud sling it too. I mean, their pass rate is, I think from like an pass rate over expected standpoint is one of the better ones in the league. So yeah, they're trusting CJ Stroud to throw it all over the place. And Nico is, I think he's top 5 in the league in receiving yards right now. So I love that buy. I've always been a fan of Nico. It's good to see his year 3 breakout coming to fruition. I'm going to jump over to the quarterback position. We're going to kind of buy high and stack Mike Williams with Justin Herbert. Stacking isn't the most, it doesn't have the same correlation as other DFS sites on Jock Market. But hey, if you think Mike Williams is going to have a big day, it's the perfect game environment for this. This could be the boom game for Justin Herbert that we haven't seen in a while. Like I said earlier, 54-point game total. Minnesota's allowing the 7th most points per game to quarterbacks, and the 15th most points per game to wide receivers. So yeah, I think this is Justin Herbert week. I think this is going to be a big game for both sides of that that game. So yeah, I'm in on Justin Herbert, and I'm probably going to be buying both him and Mike Williams. So give me all the Herbert this week.
Love that. I think I'm going to be just all over wide receivers this week for my buys. Going to go with another one here, Michael Pittman. Projected pre-ranked this week at 53rd. And I didn't know this, but looking up earlier today, I've learned that he is the number 1 safety blanket for receivers in the whole league. When a Colts quarterback is pressured, either Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew, Pittman is targeted 44% of the time. He's one of only 2 other players who have more than 10 targets when their QB is pressured. He has really become, I think we don't really notice this because of who he plays for and that carousel of quarterbacks that Pittman has had around him since he got there. But he's an effective receiver. And if Minshew does play this week with Richardson being out, it only has more opportunity for his value to go up because Minshew is way more of a passer than Richardson is. With Pittman being the number 1 target for the Colts, I love him as a buy this week.
Yeah, Pittman's just an absolute target hog this year, and it doesn't seem like that's going to slow down. So I think the year that we were expecting last year from Pittman's coming to fruition this year. So good for him. I love that buy. My last buy is also on the Colts. It is, I've done a few higher priced options this week as my buys. We're going to go way down in the bargain bin, down to the penny stocks. Pre-ranked 99th Josh Downs. Like I said, he's a dart throw candidate, but Baltimore ranks, along with everything that you said about the Colts passing game and it being elevated from last year, Baltimore ranks 26th in points allowed to wide receivers. They're allowing 43.5 points per game to the position. So I think, given that, there's enough meat on the bone here with Minshew at quarterback, expected probably more pass attempts than with Richardson, for more than one wide receiver to give you a positive ROI. And with Downs, it's not going to take much. So, he's running 77% of routes both weeks this year. Right out of the gate for a rookie, that's a really positive sign that they like him and they trust him. He's getting more and more involved now as the slot wide receiver. So, yeah, if you're looking for a pay down option, I love Downs this week.
Yeah, I think with Minshew being in there, you're going to have a lot of options for that Colts offense to have value offensively. I've always been a big fan of Minshew. I always wonder why he doesn't get more starting opportunities. But
he's probably the best backup in the league, I would say, or one of them at least.
I thought the Patriots could have used him when they had Cam Newton. But another story. I will get into my back.
The Jets would be a lot more fun if they had Gardner Minshew right now. That's for sure.
God. Add him to the list. Yeah, Jameis, Gardner,
right?
Kirk. I'm in. Last one's gonna be George Pickens, projected pre-rank of 65th, and I'm picking Pickens because he is really the only option that the Steelers have at receiver. They have no Deontay Johnson for the foreseeable future, at least a few weeks, that is. And we've seen what Pickens can do when he is the only option in that offense. And we saw it last week versus the Browns. It was really good. He had an ROI of nearly plus 200. I have a lot of gripes with Matt Canada in terms of how he's utilizing Pickett and that whole offense. But I know he's not stupid enough to leave Pickens out of the offense. And at a pre-rank of 65th, I think that's way too low for a player who's going to get so many opportunities this week to make plays with the ball. So, I mean, you notice the theme with all my picks this week. They're all in the high 50s, but they all have opportunities to show out this week, and I believe Pickens is going to be one of them.
Yeah, I think I heard a rumor that there's a GoFundMe going around in Pittsburgh to raise money to fire Matt Canada. So if anybody can screw it up, it's him. But I do like that call. I mean, we saw Pickens be featured last week, delivered for you. No Deontay Johnson. Pat Freiermuth got a ton of hype this year. He's done next to nothing. So, yeah, I don't see a whole lot of other. I mean, Allen Robinson isn't it? He had a huge opportunity last week, dudded out. So, yeah, I mean, it may be, Pickens is the best option there, and you may at this point Jaylen Warren might be their second best receiving option. So it's not pretty in Pittsburgh, but somebody's got to get the targets. You got to pass the ball eventually. I think the Pickens is a good call there to keep rolling.
Yeah, may or may not have taken Allen Robinson anytime touchdown last week. But
yeah, I picked him up in a couple of leagues, only to quickly drop him about 6 hours later.
Yeah, that was one of those one and dones for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, yeah, let's get into some shorts for the week. Trone, you want to start with your first?
Yep. Marquise Brown is not priced up this week. His pre-rank is 80. This is a kind of simple one for me. Despite the breaking news right as we were starting this recording that apparently Trayvon Diggs tore his ACL in practice, I am still going to bet against the Cardinals against that Dallas defense. Josh Dobbs facing that Dallas defense. Dallas so far this year has allowed 6.5 points per game to quarterbacks and 8.6 points per game to wide receivers. They're just a dominant defense. I think they'll be a dominant defense with or without Diggs. So I'm shorting Marquise Brown this week. I don't have high hopes for that Arizona offense this weekend. So it could be a long day.
Josh Dobbs could only manage to play one good half this year so far. So if we
actually, I want to correct one thing. I misspoke on the points per game allowed to wide receivers. It's not 8.6. That's how many they're allowing to running backs. They're allowing 14.7 points per game to the entire wide receiver group for their opponents, which is still first in the league. So they're first against quarterbacks, second against running backs, and first against wide receivers. So it's Diggs or nothing. Diggs or no, it could be ugly for the Cardinals this week.
Yeah, I know Diggs is a huge loss for the Cowboys, but they still have so many good players on that defense, and if that line can get through, that's already enough. So I will keep going on shorts. I'm going to pick Alexander Mattison as my first short of the week, pre-rank 33rd. I think his pre-rank is so high, at least in my mind, in our market, because he's still valued as the RB1 in Minnesota. I think by the end of the weekend, you'll find that he is no longer that. Trone, you shorted him in the Eagles-Vikings game last week, and we saw it. He's just not that good of a runner. I mean, I know that Eagles D-line is one of the best in the league, but he's a really just mediocre running back who can't hold on to the football. I thought that Cam Akers trade was great for the Vikings, and we're going to see by the end of this weekend why Akers is still a valuable back. So I expect Mattison and Akers to be splitting a lot of time this week, which means not a lot of touches for Mattison.
Yeah, I've been on the short Alexander Mattison bandwagon all year. Although I must say I am very excited for the ultimate mid-off with Akers and Mattison that we're going to see. I mean, it's not going to be who wins that job. It's going to be who sucks the least. That's going to be, who gets the most touches there. Yeah, I think. I mean, even if they barely play Akers this week as he gets acclimated, I still am on the. I'm still with you on that. Like, let's make Mattison prove it to us that he can be efficient and really rack up yards and score some points for you, because I'm not seeing it coming. We haven't seen it yet. So I'll dive into my next one here. Terry McLaurin, pre-ranked 60. So far the Bills are fourth in the NFL against wide receivers. They're only giving up 24 points per game to the entire position group. The Jahan Dotson breakout that everyone was predicting this offseason has not materialized yet. I think I think the Bills defense is still going to give McLaurin the wide receiver 1 treatment. So, the Bills have been very good against wide receivers. I don't know if Sam Howell can keep up with the Bills. I think it might be a quiet day for Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, I've loved watching the enemy offense so far, but the Bills with their corners and
and I think Washington is definitely exceeding expectations. I think Howell has been a very pleasant surprise for them. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the case this week, though. I think for where the Commanders drafted Howell, they got incredible value there, right there with you. That Bieniemy was a great hire, but it might not look all that great this week.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last week with playing Devontae Adams, who's one of the best receivers in the league. They held the Raiders to only 10 points. So, in terms of fantasy value for touchdowns, I like that there. I'm going to switch to QBs for probably the rest of my shorts for the week. My first one's going to be Deshaun Watson, pre-rank of 12th. I mean, we saw it on Monday night. That was an ugly game between both offenses couldn't do anything, but Deshaun just looked lost. I saw at least 10 passes that were 15, sometimes even 20 feet over his receivers' heads. Just looked not on the same page with anyone. And when you're playing a team that likes to swarm the ball like the Steelers did, I think the Titans are kind of in that same realm with their defense. I don't see it getting better for Deshaun Watson this week. The Titans have allowed the 6th fewest points to QBs this season. And with all that's going on with Deshaun, he doesn't look the same as he used to. He can't really run out of that pocket and extend plays like he used to. I think Browns fans this year are going to slowly, if they haven't already, start to regret that signing.
Yeah, he just looks like he's kind of skittish out there, doesn't he? Like, it seems like he just hasn't gotten the game speed back, or something's off with Watson. I mean, look, you take 2 years off. It doesn't surprise a lot of people, I don't think. But man, he looks like he's got a ways to go still, and he's ranked 12th in our markets here. So I think that's a great short opportunity. I'm going to go into the quarterback position for my next couple. Also, first one, Jordan Love. Pre-ranked 28. New Orleans is a top 5 defense against quarterbacks this year. Aaron Jones is banged up. Christian Watson practiced in a limited fashion on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday, so he's going in the wrong direction towards playing. I think regression is coming for Jordan Love this week. He's been scoring fantasy points really at a rate that outpaces, I think, how well some of his peripherals are saying he's playing. I think he's put up 6 touchdowns passing so far this year, and a lot of the other numbers don't really speak to that. So I think this may be the week that we see Jordan Love come back down to earth. So I will be shorting him at his pre-rank of 28th in our markets.
I like that. I'm going to stick in the NFC North. For my next short, it's going to be quarterback Justin Fields. Projected pre-ranked this week of 13th. I thought that was really high considering what we saw from him the last 2 weeks, especially in that Bucs game, just not surveying the field and kind of no sense of urgency in the pocket. It's not going to get any easier this week. He's facing a KC defense who, after a really disastrous week 1, held their own versus the Jags last week. They're top 5 in fewest points allowed to quarterbacks this year so far. I don't think things are trending well for Justin Fields and the Bears. We saw this week in the media a little turmoil between him and the offensive coaches. I don't know who's to blame. I assume it's a mixture of both, but I know for one thing that it's not going to get better this week. So Justin Fields is a big on a short list for me.
I think I saw a stat, but Fields has only had 2 or 4 designed runs through 2 games so far. I mean, it feels like he should have that almost every quarter. So something's wrong with the Bears. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough situation in Chicago right now. So I like the Fields short. I had Fields on my list before I saw you got to him first. So looks like we're in full agreement there. So yeah, you have Fields shorted at 13th overall, pre-ranked. Going one spot down, I am shorting Tua Tagovailoa at 14th in our markets. So look, no Jalen. It's looking like Jalen Waddle isn't going to play this week. He's not out of concussion protocol yet. Did not practice as of Thursday. If you don't practice on Thursday, it's not a good sign to play on Sunday. This admittedly could be a risky one. Tua has obviously played really well. That being said, from a fantasy standpoint, when you're looking at the entire slate, if he puts up a huge passing day, this could bite in my face. But he doesn't run much, so there's a limited floor there with Tua. Something I found interesting. So the Broncos are 0-2 and 0-2 against the spread. Teams that are 0-2 straight up and against the spread tend to be very profitable week 3. So, and if you look at about 67% of the money, which is the majority of sharp money, is on the Broncos this week. I think this is kind of a sneaky trap game for the Dolphins. They're missing one of their studs on offense. So, yeah, again, it's a risky short, but I am shorting Tua Tagovailoa. I think this could be a lower scoring game than we expect, and it could be somewhat of a trap game for Tua, where he may even play decently well, but only get you, 12, 13 fantasy points.
Yeah, I like that short. I think Tua's probably going to be a little bit more of a game manager in the next 2 weeks until he gets Waddle back.
And again, this is a risky one for sure. So if you like to play it safe, probably don't tag along with that one. But I think, look, he's priced way up this week, and we've seen, we saw Tua play a really nice game against the Patriots, but only got you 12, 13 fantasy points. If you short him and he scores that many fantasy points, you're going to make money this week. So I think it looks riskier, I think, than it actually is, despite how well Tua has been playing. But yeah, I think Tua being on the short side this week is a sneaky sharp play.
Yeah, I think for quarterbacks this week, you just got to look at, is the quarterback going to win the game for you, or is the team? And if it's the quarterback, I would certainly buy in on their price. But if it's really, they just need to be a game manager and it's more that everyone around them contributing, I think bigger opportunities for shorts. And I see Tua in that category for this week.
Yep.
I'm going to stick with another quarterback for this week, as picking Jimmy Garoppolo as my short pre-rank at 32nd. And I'm comparing Jimmy to Deshaun Watson, and I should stress for on-field reasons. Jimmy and Deshaun don't really move in the pocket that well. I mean, Watson used to really well, but it seems like he sort of lost that. And so I compare their pocket presence to be kind of similar nowadays. That Pittsburgh defense swarmed Deshaun last week. Yeah, they were all over the place, forcing him out of the pocket whenever they could. They also have some great corners to back up a very good pass rush. I believe that the Steelers' defense is better than Buffalo's, and last week the Buffalo defense held Jimmy to a 76% ROI decrease for the week. So if you're going to compare it in terms of that standard, I think Jimmy as a short this week is a good call.
Shorting Jimmy Garoppolo is probably a good idea most weeks. So I'm with you there. I'll go into my last short. We're going to jump over to the running back position. The 10th ranked running back in our market, Zack Moss. His pre-rank right now is 42, which is just behind the likes of Rhamondre Stevenson and Kenneth Walker. Baltimore is 5th in fantasy points allowed to running backs. They're allowing 14.5 points a game to the position. I think last week was somewhat of an outlier game for Zack Moss, in respect to who he's always been. It's not something we've really ever seen from him before, right? Having just a massive, massive snap share. And look, that could happen again. But if I have to pay a price of, RB10 in our markets, top 45 player, essentially, at those prices, I'm out. I'll let him prove it to me.
For these reasons, I am out.
You got it.
Well, I will get you. Let's wrap it up with my last short. Going to also go with a running back, and this will probably get thrown back in my face. But Rhamondre Stevenson, it's not a knock on Rhamondre, although he hasn't had a great year so far. He hasn't averaged more than 4 yards a carry yet this season, which compared to last year, it's not at all. It's a big disappointment comparatively. I really just have no faith in the Patriots O-line. They've had a lot of injuries. We don't know the Trent Brown situation. They have rookie tackles playing guard and vice versa, especially versus Jets defensive line. I don't think Rhamondre is going to have a lot of opportunities to run the ball in space. And I'm just, this might be me as a Patriots fan being down in the last 2 weeks, but I'm down on the Patriots offense. They haven't shown me much the last 2 weeks other than Hunter Henry to really prove that things are going well in terms of a value standpoint. So I will be shorting Rhamondre.
I like it. I don't like it as a Patriots fan, but I think it's the right call. Yeah.
And if you're going to compare Breece Hall to Rhamondre Stevenson, you got to think, which one should I choose? Breece is just the more dynamic runner. I mean, both O-lines aren't good, but I think Breece Hall can do more with what he has than Rhamondre.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're comparing the two players, they're not even close. Rhamondre will definitely get more snaps, more volume. So he will compile if you're looking for a compiler, I would probably go with Rhamondre. But if you're looking for somebody who can put up a big week, right now that looks like Breece Hall is, assuming that they give him, his week. I mean, I don't even think his snap share was that bad. I think he's just had a bad week. So I wouldn't get too discouraged from the less than 1 point performance from Breece Hall last week. I think better days are ahead for Breece Hall as he gets healthier and healthier. So yeah, short Rhamondre.
Perfect. Well, that wraps up our buys and shorts for week 3 Sunday. Just to run through them again, my buys for the week were Josh Reynolds, Nico Collins, Michael Pittman, Breece Hall, and George Pickens. Tron, your buys?
My buys were Tony Pollard, Travis Etienne, Mike Williams, Justin Herbert, and Josh Downs.
And my shorts were Alexander Mattison, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, and Jimmy Garoppolo, and Rhamondre Stevenson.
And I will be shorting Hollywood Brown, Terry McLaurin, Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, and Zack Moss.
Perfect. Well, that'll do it for us. Good luck to everyone in the markets this week, and we will see you on Monday for Monday Night Football.
Sounds good, Coleman. Enjoy the games this week. Take care, everyone.
Bye.